the title of the section that you're all reading from, except Jaime Wood is the one exception. Jaime Wood is not in the section Grammar of Animacy, but she's in the section Songs of Undoing. But she can't make that date, so she's here with us, and I think her poem fits very beautifully with the rest. I want to just quote from Robin Wall Kimmerer's essay with the title, The Grammar of Animacy, which is where the title of this section came from. Robin Wall Kimmerer was not able to be with us tonight. It's no surprise. She's a very busy woman. Um, but I just want to read this one paragraph from her essay. In Anishinaabe and many other indigenous languages, it's impossible to speak of maple as it. In our language, there is no it for birds or berries. The language does not divide the world into him and her, but into animate and inanimate. And the grammar of animacy is applied to all that lives: sturgeon, mayflies, blueberries, boulders, and rivers. We refer to other members of the living world with the same language that we use for our family, because they are our family. What would it feel like to be part of a family that includes birches and beavers and butterflies? We'd be less lonely. We'd feel like we belonged. We'd be smarter. So, Jaime, take it from there, please.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank everyone for allowing me to crash this particular reading. I've had a really busy schedule lately, and I'm just really honored to be here. So I've started my timer, and I'm gonna try to read three poems. The first is about the beginning of life, the second, the end of life, and the third, really everything that comes in between. All of these poems were published in Dark Matter. I think it was the number 5. The first poem is called The Seedlings. You are not alive as I am alive, but it seems every minute you are, climbing for the first time out of your bed in the kitchen window and provoking the others to do the same. The morning before you broke ground, I was worried the soil would be too much for you to overcome. Now I follow my grandmother's practice, stand close and whisper encouragement to your leaves, while you turn closer each second to the light. You are alive in a way I am not alive, so I sing to you. My second poem is called Felicity Died on a Cold Metal Table. On a towel she lay unshaken, but uncalm from my perspective. She breathed a sigh, looked from the table toward the walls, a pale and unmoving, she was a stone, or so I wanted her to be, stoic and free from my misery. The veterinarian's needle touched her leg, pointed to the place it would enter and stop her heart. I held her head unnecessarily still. She had no intention of running and couldn't know the darkness as I imagined it coming, solid and impassable. I wanted to see light in her. I wanted a final flinch from her muscles' small, slack ropes. Her eyes did not close finally, but couldn't see. The room was the same, cold table, without a place to go after the body has given up. Her hair, black and white, fell out and came home with me, to the bed where I lay with the orange tabby, who licked the tips of my fingers, as if there exists a scent for sorrow, as if hungry. And my final poem is called Yaquina at Low Tide. Sea lions peek their heads up like periscopes to stare at the bipedals corrupting the rocky shore. Each time the waves sweep the blue-black pebbles and roll back into themselves, the stones applaud the effort it must take to be the tide. Atop the fisted cliff, jutting from the shallows, perch 1,000 Murs, and beyond them 1,000 more, who will never know the prison of a cage, or a too small wage, or the death that awaits them beyond their knowing. They understand the sea, the cycles of the sun, the threat of eagles stealing their young, the cacophony of seagulls who catch their unhatched progeny and return each day for more, as if this is what they live for. We make words for everything, name every species we find, but there's no word for the distance between the clumsy penguin-like bird's desire to nest in the crags, the long-necked cormorant's skill for fishing the bay, the sea lion's bellies buoying on the water, and my urge to pitch into their world and unmake myself. Thank you.
That is just,
Luscious.
oh, wow. I'm hoping that this is going to send some of you back to the journal so that you can actually read these again, because once is not enough. If we had time, I would ask you to read all three of those poems all over again. That's wonderful. Um, our next reader is Judy Grahn, and I said this one before. I need to say it again because not everyone was here, but I have admired Judy Grahn. She's been a hero of mine for 45 years, ever since I read A Woman is Talking to Death when I was 26 or 7 years old. And I'm just so excited that you are now part of this, knowing you in this whole other context, Judy, in which I can admire you all over again.
Thank you, Elise. I'm happy to be here. I'm really so grateful to be able to share this story because the story is so priceless to me, not as a story, but as you'll see, because of the creature. And that my story starts, wait, what's happening? Okay, wait. I have to get here. I thought I had it all fixed up. It's crazy. Oh, well. Okay. My story is called Dragonfly Dances. And I'm so grateful for it that I was crying over the memory of remembering this event that happened in the 90s. It happened on a golf course, so unlikely, except the golf courses are they're like wild, they're like wilderness. There's so much wildlife in some of them. And I was with my spouse and our friend Ruth, and we discovered in the creek something was pulsating, and it turned out to be a dragonfly that was completely immersed in muck, in algae fibers, just completely enwrapped in it and was dying. So we pulled her out. I call everything her until corrected for some reason, good reason. Um, and and there in my hand was this little helpless creature. And I had the smallest fingers, so I began trying to unwrap these fibers. Uh, and down went Dragonfly into the dirt. Then I put her on Chris's shoulder where she clutched on and hung, and I tried again with a water bottle to put water on her. And she went flying into the dirt, and I picked her up and put her back on Chris's shoulder. And now I became cognizant of a strong current of awareness beaming toward my eyes. and emanating from what looked like a little square organ on the dragonfly's head. I became certain that she was in touch with me, was thinking, and not only thinking, contacting me somehow with her thinking. Smarter now and more patient, I wet my fingers first and then slid them ever so lightly over the wings. First the two on the left, the most encrusted. The water dissolved the stiffened filaments and allowed me to roll them. Now she was far from being in a state of panic. The dragonfly was acting as though she knew exactly what I was doing to help, as I could tell from her body language. She seemed to be making very conscious motions, turning and lifting her wings one by one, separating the upper and lower pairs so as to allow the needed access for my wet fingers and enhancing the process of my tender work. Could this be true? Giving up the golf game, I stayed completely in the moment as I rolled and rolled until the slime fell off each wing, which as it did immediately straightened. Elation! And our conscious connection was not my imagination. The dragonfly was turning to engage my wet fingers, was guiding me into the next step and the next, turning to present her other side and the undersides as well as the tops of each of her four wings and also her wire-like legs. We were working together. Delicacy of timing and joint effort did not fail us, and by the end of the sixth hole, the slime was off. One wing remained a little wrinkled, but the game of recovery was won, and this was clear to all of us. We relaxed. She would live. With her long body as brown as the recently released mud, the dragonfly stayed still on Chris's shoulder, resting, I heard clearly, as I stared at the head box between her large eyes that appeared to emanate toward my mind, and now emitted a golden glow that opened my heart as well, a distinctive sensation that I experienced physically as well as emotionally. The insect foot clutch on cotton cloth was confident, even as Chris in her shots off the tee in fairway. When the golfer's left shoulder dipped, the dragonfly dipped with it, as though on a slender bough in the wind. On the seventh hole, I noticed the change. It began as an underglow in various sections of her body, so at first I wondered if it had been there all along and I simply hadn't noticed. Then the blue color became more evident, then startlingly deep and luminous as summer sky. Look, I said breathlessly to my companions, she's a blue dragonfly. The blue was that sparkling, clean lake water shade of so beloved of race car drivers and motorcycles, candy apple blue. And it spread until the whole body had it, except for the dark eyes and the darker box, that intriguing communication shape that I could feel as well as see between her eyes on top of her head. Then, amidst the blue, dazzling gold appeared as well, as though a whimsical, good-humored, and patient painter had put golden trim on a particularly treasured model. We were all in love by then. Ruth and I continued to exclaim our pleasure, and Chris glowed as she craned her neck to check on the condition of the creature that rode her, like the most stable of horses, across this winding course. And we understood this as an incredible and spiritual gift that we would never, ever forget. And that isn't all of it either. I can talk more in a breakout room, but that's my reading of it. And I'm so grateful that it happened and that I get to share the story because it was such a magical moment.
Mm.
Mm. I was watching the faces as you were reading, Judy, and I think we felt it. We really did.
Good.
It's also just wonderful hearing you read it.
Thank you.
And by the way, Elliott, would you put that thing in the chat for everyone? I think everyone should know your poem and should read Elliott's thing. Just put it in the chat. This is from our conversation before. Judy wrote this poem that's one of the most important poems ever written, and Elliott wrote about it. And thank you in my journal, and I'd completely forgotten. And I now remember it's an amazing piece about an amazing poem by Judy Grahn. So two of our featured poets are involved in this. So I'm glad that's in the chat. Thank you. It turns out that our next reader, Alexandra Merrill, was not able to be here. That she just let us know today. So what we're going to do is her piece is so amazing. We have to talk about it. So I just want to tell you a little bit about it. And Kristen is going to be the bees. It's about bees. It's called Homage to Bees. And oh my God, if you haven't seen it already, I think it's one of the most amazing things we've ever published. Um, what happened is that she's extremely allergic to bees, to bee venom. And she's out walking with friends one day, and this swarming mass appears, and she gets stung, and she ends up in the emergency room. And while she's in the emergency room, she notices this dry blinking of her eyes, and she notices this delicious sensation of all over bee licking. And the next thing she notices is that she starts hearing these sounds. And the licking sensation returns each time I bring attention to the sounds in my ears. And she's determined to write down what she's hearing, but she says at first there's nothing to write down, and she just gets images. So what the most of this piece is a combination of the images that she's getting from the bees and the text that the bees are sending her. So I am now going to try to screen share some of the images, and Kristen, you are going to read some of the messages that she got from the bees.
This is from page 202 of the anthology, and it's in large part a description of what Lise just shared, but from the bee's perspective. A swarm of us isn't necessarily a hostile force. Most often, we are either acting in legitimate self-defense or traveling together to a new location. The woman who trespassed on our well-hidden hive that day didn't know she was stepping on marked territory and wasn't prepared for our response. She was blindly following the lead of a man who appeared to know everything about the forest. He didn't. It was an accident, you might say, but from our perspective, it was not at all an accident. As we kept stinging her, we heard her say out loud to the forest, "Well, this would be a good day to die." That is the very moment we knew to stop, satisfied with her response. We left her to her own conclusions. Those of us who hadn't died stinging flew down under our ground with the day's collection. We knew that our dosage had been precise and correct. We thought she'd be back, working for us. We were right. We can see through time because of the structure of our eyes. We see behind and ahead all at once, and we know humans don't yet have that capacity. When we all sting down into her, she is not afraid. She walks slowly and deliberately, as if she has been waiting for us, almost offering to receive us. She gets as far as the edge of the woods and lies down in the little house to let her heart go gently. A few of us are buzzing around, up above in the shadows, watching the people who arrive and beg her to stay here. Please stay, they say. Stop calling me. I am busy learning, is what we hear her thinking as they call her back. They can't hear her thoughts, but we do. We know she'd be happy to leave, and she knows it is in the hands of the mother, not her mind. She returns to her people eventually, healed by our venom, and permanently connected to us by a constant internal buzzing resolve, the long-term after effect of our medicine. She can speak and sting when necessary. And, of course, she pays the high price every time. Predictable shunning, exile, accusations of meanness. Workers and drones, we all understand this. She will learn to live with the loneliness of working leadership, and she has no desire to be the queen, anyone's queen, except her own.
Wow.
And then one other message. How we see all at once. We do not break up experiences into bits and pieces. So we are all one, and we are all here, always and now, a unified field of awareness in real time and space. And so are you, if you wish to be. Just change your point of view to be with us. You are welcome.
Ah. Mm. Thank you, Kristen. I would have picked the exact same ones.
Oh, good.
Yeah, amazing, huh? Just
Yeah,
completely
amazing.
amazing. Um, I just want to say that the next readers, with one exception, which is Sara, are going to be reading about beings who are endangered, if not going extinct. I just thought that was an important thing to say, even though I don't think there's any mention of it in the texts that we're going to be reading. But since the title of the anthology, the subtitle is Dreams Before Extinction, I thought that bore mentioning. So Joan Kresich is going to be our next reader, A Letter to a Yellowstone Wolf.
Thank you so much. I am just so deeply moved to be here today. Letter to a Yellowstone Wolf. I felt I needed to write to let you know our meeting wasn't what I would have wished. It's true, I've been imprinted with the classic images, you in a ruffled granny cap salivating through slick teeth or closing in on Jack London's Northwoods fire, but I never took those to heart. I would have wanted an encounter of equals, two creatures passing in the copse of vulnerability, pared down to sinew and synapse, the copper wires of our wits holding the whole thing together. One of those meetings where energy and mass trade places in a flash of eyes, where everything funnels and explodes in the same moment. But the way you paused and turned to look back at us made me think you felt pursued. Why did you stick to the ribbon of road? We never saw where you came from, just rounded the bend, and there you were. We slowed the car and waited for you to take off across the snow, but you kept loping along the pavement. A few cars passed you going the other way, and you just moved over and kept to the road. So this was our meeting, you loping ahead, us rolling along in our bubble of amazement. You have your history and we ours. When was it we parted? Once we inhabited the same land, the same territory. In that time, I would have understood the bargains you made to stay alive. Ribs undulating across your flanks would ignite a flash of recognition and kinship in me. My empty stomach would tell me how hunger masked the last resources of your body to search for food and how it kept you riveted to your prey. You weren't wearing a collar like some of your Yellowstone kin.
Every pack is named, every wolf numbered. I have to admit, this numbering makes me think of other human counting schemes, digits shelled out to prisoners, tattooed on wrists. If those are dehumanizing, what is this? I saw the reams of data on the internet, every detail of wolf movements, kinships, pairings, deaths. Some people write to complain about helicopters descending on wolves and photos of researchers proudly posed behind drugged out wolves, their tongues lolling. I could see their point. I've seen a similar expression before in the old safari photos. It says, "This is my story." And why was I on the internet? I wanted something there to tell me where you were going and why you were alone. But once inside that mess of sticky facts, I got a trapped feeling. I'd flown into a spider's web and she was making her way down the silk. I turned off the computer and walked away. For a long time, I sat thinking of dominion. Yours is a tiny population, and one clever virus could take you out. Of course, we could be the ones to go. But being human, I can indulge in a fantasy. Maybe you are making your way across a single narrow plank into the future, a time without tranquilizing darts and renderings about whether you get one last chance to stay away from sheep. In that future, your life and death will no longer be in human hands. It will rest in the same invisible hands that once kept salmon thrashing upriver, bats billowing into the starlight, bees hauling their garlands from field to field, life dancing long into the night, beads of sweat flying everywhere like 1,000 seeds, and awakening at dawn to the first breath of primordial light. Even though I didn't see you in your prime, you sent a bolt of your power into my chest, and it's still there. Sometimes before I drift to sleep, I see you loping, and that gives me a small, wet hope, just opening its eyes. After all that has happened, we are still connected. I wish you well, Yellowstone. I wish you well.
Wow, I didn't expect I was gonna. That really made me tear up. I don't think I'm the only one. Thank you, Joan.
I was gonna say I'll probably cry, and then I thought, well, maybe I won't.
I don't know why, but I'm just feeling like maybe we could just keep going and have our breakout room at the end. I could be wrong, but it just feels like we have this momentum in the reading. What do you think? We have Elliott saying yes to that.
Yep.
It's just three readers, and then we'll have a big long time for a breakout room after if everyone sticks to their time, especially me. Great. Okay, so Sara, you're on then. Are you ready? You got to unmute. Don't forget to unmute, Sara.
Okay, am I on here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I have to move into the other room.
So you can be with your plant?
No, not so I can be with my plant. I was with my plant, but in order to read, my eyes are very, very bad. So in order to read the paragraph, I need very good light. Uh, I'm still recovering from. Okay. Okay, I want to say a couple of practical things here. I just decided I really didn't want to read the whole thing. It's too long. It's too long for 5 minutes. And but I did have a couple of things to say, and I'm going to say them now. I'm a hybrid writer, meaning that I'm both a nature writer and a storyteller. Um, and I'm profoundly grateful that the editors put this piece. I'm really upset about that. In this section on the grammar of animacy, because I have been struggling for years as a nature writer to get rid of othering. I experience all of nature as animate and always have. Using words like she, he, they, who. For a long time, I just stayed with her. Judy Grahn said her. Yeah, originally I did. But it's the hybridization that's made it hard. But staying like with words like she, he, they, who, I was still stuck with an it at the end. Example, my my orchid was bright yellow and it shone in the sun like a star. If I use these pronouns, I still might be wrong. In the case of an orchid, sometimes, most of the time, both sexes are on the same plant, but some are not, and some have a both and. So I'm always stuck with an it. We routinely other animals, plants, fungi with our language, which is based on separation, othering. Robin Wall Kimmerer has one brilliant solution: animate nature by using the word key, short for kin, to replace it. Instantly, we are transported into animacy, personhood. The only way around this is through story. And this little story of my little yellow orchid was one of my attempts to risk putting what I experienced through my life into print. Okay, so here we are in the background. I'm apologizing for this. I'm sorry. When I started growing orchids, I had no idea what I was doing. But after 4 years of continuous blooming, I knew I had to repot this one. And I was terrified. And the reason I knew was that she told me, although I didn't say so in the essay. I alluded it. If you read between the lines, she told me. Plants routinely communicate with me under words and always have. The paragraph I will read illustrates what I experienced after this traumatic repotting experience. So this is the end of my story here. I think this book is already getting old. I think I was gazing out the window as I lowered her into the still, warm water because I felt some kind of subtle tingling through my hands that caused me to look down at the plant. When I did, I was momentarily dazzled by the eerie glow of emerald green roots pulsing intensely as if some sort of information was flashing between the plant and me through color and touch. All I can say is that I saw the varying shades of green roots deepen to emerald and fade as I stood there in a trance. When the thoughts came, they were sharp, clear, and carried authority. My lady is thanking me, her roots glowing, to let me know she feels gratitude too. I almost let go of her then. The shock of conscious thought was so great. I peered even more intently at the roots that even now were returning to a healthy, pale green, a green I recognized. Did I imagine that emerald? Trust your senses, I heard her say, breathing into the miracle of my body. I let all the love I felt for her and her kindred flow through me.
This is a very moving evening so far. I hope I'm not gonna break the tone. Um, I'm not somebody who gets messages from plants or animals, and that puts me in a weird position sometimes as the editor of this journal because I'm in the company of people who get these messages all the time and publishing these. But I'm really very, I don't know. It's really hard for things to get through, but I'm going to read you about the one big exception in my life, which was with the whales. They got through to me. And to really understand the getting through, well, I should probably mention this later on, but okay, I went on this trip to Baja, Mexico to meet the whales. And in Baja, it's salt water and it's hot. And I had this thing that I couldn't get in the water because it was going to ruin my hair. So that's the thing you need to know before I read you this, because it'll help you understand their way of getting through to me, which was I still can't even believe it. So my trip to Baja took place 8 years ago, and I was feeling some of the very same feelings I'm feeling right now. It was March 2017. I was still reeling from the elections and what they said about the US and our chances of redeeming ourselves as a species. Could nature recover from our relentless assaults? Was there any reason to hope? I thought the whales might have some wisdom to offer, that I would be traveling with a women's wilderness outfit and a guide who communicated with whales seemed to increase the likelihood of this outcome. So what happens is we start off at the Sea of Cortez and this blue whale approaches. And it's very rare to see a blue whale. And it's as soon as they see it, the other women just fall to their knees and they say, I know she's come for us. I just know it. And me, I'm going, what? Why would she come for us? What I actually say was, they're the biggest mammals on the face of the earth, and some consider them the most powerful spiritual beings who ever existed. To be honest, I felt rage. What the fuck makes you think they're coming for us? Why the fuck would they want to come to us after what we've done to them, done to the oceans? I said this one night around the campfire, my face wet with tears, which in all honesty were probably less tears of shame for our species than pain at not being able to feel what the others felt, at feeling separate from them. But after 5 days on the Sea of Cortez, spying one fluke after another, watching those giant bodies dive and surface and dive again, I had come to believe, and I can't say how exactly, that maybe, yes, they did love us, and yes, they had come for us. So then we moved across the peninsula to the Pacific, and we stayed in a place called San Ignacio, which some of you have maybe heard of, which is a place where gray whales were massacred en masse up until the early 20th century. It was their calving ground. But in 1977, a fisherman received a visit from a mama gray and her calf. And it turned out the mama wanted him to touch her calf. And ever since then, it's been a pilgrimage place. People come there to touch the whales. So that's what we were there for. And I did manage to touch a whale. So in the late morning after the circle, we went out in the boats. The driver of my boat was Sextos, a big burly Mexican who never ventured out into the lagoon without his flute. A blow, someone would shout, pointing, and all binoculars would take aim as Sextos sped up to get near, then cut the motor. Soon he would unfurl the bandana in which he'd wrapped his flute, pick it up, and begin playing. The whales would arrive within minutes. One time, what looked like a whole pod came and stirred the waters beside our boat, rolling over and spy hopping and cavorting while we raced from side to side of the boat in anticipation. And at some point, one of the whales would sidle up to us and we managed to touch them. And the feel of the slick, rubbery skin against your hand was like nothing I've ever felt. The feeling of your hand inside, it's usually the baby that you're touching, the baby's mouth when you manage to push past the soft fringe of the baleen and he seems to grip it. It's just an incredible feeling. But it's our last day now, and I am going out one more time in the afternoon. It's my last chance. As the boat pulls out, I wonder if I'm being greedy because there are only 5 of us from the trip wanting to get in our last hellos. The water's rough, and so far we're not seeing very many whales. And I'm feeling like, okay, I'm being a little greedy here, but I'm thinking, please, whales, just one last time. So there's only 20 minutes left. We still haven't spied one whale until at last, yes, just 50 feet from our boat, a mama, her large calf, frolicking, seeming to want our company. And now the baby's right up against the boat, and the others are all rushing to one side to stroke him, no doubt jonesing like me. Most of them manage to get their hands on him, but he shoots off before I can insinuate myself. Damn. Now, a giant body moving towards us. The mama, yes, just feet away. This I will not miss. We have been sending the mamas our love now for days. We can't help feeling the most aching gratitude to them for the way they keep offering up their young. And now I get to thank her with my hands. I push my way in, extend myself far over the side of the boat. Oh, mama, you're the best, mama. We love you so much. Come. She's now so close, just a few more inches, and my fingers will make contact. Instead, sudden shock of spray. Wet spray, salt spray, jet spray, and now wet. Hair wet, jacket wet, pants, and even the boat wet now, filling up with water, and your friends and the driver also wet and pointing at you, laughing. You who all week have been trying to protect your hair from the salt water. You who, when the shock relents, are laughing the purest, loudest, most hearty laughter of your entire life. Also the longest as it goes on, because this great mama has chosen this moment of your readiness, your openness to blow on you with all the force of her giant lungs. There is nothing now but this, and then for hours there is only this, complete abandon to this moment of laughter and love. So our last reader is Elliott.
Wow, all of that's a lot to follow. I just want to go live with the whales now, so I have to come back.
You can take your time.
I'm actually tonight sitting in a studio at Mass MoCA, where I'm here for a wonderful 6-day poetry residency. So it's very white and echoey here. And I've lived in Philly for a long time, but I grew up in an extremely tiny town in Illinois downstate Illinois, about 45 miles east of the Mississippi River. And that meant we were on the Mississippi Flyway, where all of the animals come down and fly along the river. And so this poem is a poetic setting of a true story that happened once in my childhood. It's called Benediction. In the years that farmers cleared their fields by throwing flames across the nights, half-mile rows of black smoke leached across late autumn days until the west wind came with a frost and blew the burned soil away. That great prairie wind pushing leaves and garbage and ash from the river edge of Adams County to well past Terre Haute. That wind that just one time before, my father said, had yielded magic. Come outside now, he, rousing me, said. The wind all last week has moved the Mississippi Flyway to the east. And pointing showed how the old pine just out the door shimmered, the slow beat of a million wings all aglow, such brilliant orange that the morning sun could blush that morning only pink, watching as his familiar lips touched my ear, his family code. This secret is ours, only ours. And then he whispered only one word, monarchs. Then warmed awake those wings spread wide, each a book of prayers I felt I once could read. Such delight, such despair, I dare not even breathe. So breathless, watched them rise from our tree, creatures made of air. So light their launching stirred not a single needle. And so my father's lips and my ear became blessed, and all our years of secreting were made holy, holy, holy ever after by the touch of the great kings who once had rested here. And that, I don't know if you've ever seen it, you can find photos online, but the monarchs will sleep overnight on a pine tree, which then is orange, right? It's covered with millions of monarchs. And in the morning when they wake, it's like this cloud just lifts from this tree. And I've only seen it once.
We just really hope that we could end with you, and we did, because it's so wonderful to end on a note of reverence. That was beautiful. And we're going to be able to be in breakout rooms. We can do it for 15 minutes now. And Annie, do you know how you're going to organize this?
You know, I preset the breakout room for 10 minutes, but so you want me to keep, so just tell me the time that you want me to pull everybody out. What's the exact time?
Well, so 15 minutes from now is what?
5:23.
8:23. I can't do math very well. What's 15 minutes? Gwyneth.
Okay, so we'll all come back into this room at 8:23.
Okay, and it would be nice when you come. What did we say? I mean, obviously this is just to respond to everything, and it would be nice if each group had a word or a phrase that they could come out with and share with everyone. How many groups are there going to be, Annie?
4, 3 or 4, because we have 16 participants right now, minus me.
Okay.
Excuse me, would you make me like an extra one in the group, because I'm very tired. I may not last the whole time. So if I don't last the whole time, I don't want to leave the group short, if that's possible.
Why don't you just do 3 groups, Annie?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. 3 groups is perfect.
Hi, Annie. I guess it's just you and me.
They're coming. Don't worry.
I got bumped out or something. I mean, I clicked the wrong button. We weren't quite finishing the conversation. I'm wondering if we can get a minute warning.
It does. It gives you a 60-second warning. I'm watching the countdown.
Oh,
Yeah, they'll
okay.
all be back in 17, 16, 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you just hit the button. You're right.
I did. I hit the button. I didn't mean to. We were in the middle of something really nice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I hit the button. I take this. Yeah. Huh. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, how was that? I had a great time in my group.
We had a great time too.
Mhm. Mhm.
And did you assign someone in your group to say something? We didn't, but we tried to hone it down to one thing.
Mm. We were full swing in the conversation, but maybe somebody from the group can come up with a word or a phrase.
We did with our group,
Nothing.
and the phrase was dark matter as a home for transcendence.
Ah.
I'd
Amazing.
say dark matter as a home for experiencing.
Mm.
Mm.
How about dark matter as a home for connecting with the other than human?
Mhm.
I think at the very end, we were talking about how as kids, we were more open and we knew that we were connected, and the ways that it was shamed and beaten out of us, or we were told we were crazy. And so the urgency of this kind of community gathering, so we can say what we know was true that we learned to
Yeah.
shut up about.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
talk about how crazy you feel, Sarah. There was
Yeah,
a lot of your kind of talk, Sarah, about how crazy we're made to feel
Yeah.
having these relationships
Uh-huh.
and how destructive that is. Because how do you ward off the destruction if people all they do is laugh at you?
Or dismiss, or worse, dismiss, just.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then at the very end, we had this incredible story that Judy told, and maybe you could just sum it up in a couple of words.
Yes, 2 friends of mine, one of whom was Pat Parker, by the way, the poet,
Oh, wow.
and her spouse. They had a friend who was a snail whisperer, and they witnessed that a neighbor had told them that she or they, whoever they were going to put out snail poison the next day. The snail whisperer then said to the snails in the yard what was going to happen and that they needed to leave. And they witnessed the snails
They left.
leaving the yard. They just simply all left.
Wow.
I,
Wow.
I had the same experience in New Mexico where they were going to put poison around the house, and I went over and I said, you gotta get out of here. Now, literally, this is going to happen, and they did. And when they came back, people who came into the yard got bitten. I think I'm kidding. Meanwhile, I have these 2 5-pound dogs, and we're walking around without any problems at all.
Yeah.
The revenge of the insects. We were talking about how amazing it is that in this reading, how many people wrote about insects.
Yes, that is really amazing. Yeah.
makes me think of in the part you read of the bees, that the bee, this is something that I took a note on about the bees stinging her, but then she had a satisfying response and
Yeah.
they stopped.
Yeah.
So, what was the response? The response was a surrender, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to a lashing out angrily or a blaming. I thought that was a really powerful moment, so
Yeah.
the revenge of the insects is actually targeted at a particular human trait, you know?
So much to think about. I feel as though the other than human life is doing all it can to communicate with humans,
It is.
trying to reach
All.
us, trying to alert us, and it's so strange how difficult it is to make this gigantic cultural shift that writers, all of us, are trying to talk about, but Robin Wall Kimmerer is trying to put it into words that people maybe who are not quite there could fathom. I mean, I just
Exactly. Practice it. Practice it. Instead of when you hear yourself say it, practice key.
that's
Change
beautiful.
everything. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for me, it of course didn't change anything because I already had it, but I never had the words, and I got so sick of she. First it was her, then it was S/HE, and then it was he, and then it was they, and then it was who, but it was always an it, always I couldn't get rid of it. And I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I am just now. Key is just when anyway, that just gets rid of the whole thing.
I
Um,
think that's a great, because this is 8:30 and this tape, Annie, that might be a great moment to stop on that.